Big news in the world of MMA, as it seems like the UFC are not happy with their broadcast partner in ESPN and are reportedly looking to strike a deal with Netflix to be their new broadcast partner. So we're going to react to some of these points that the UFC have made as to why they're reportedly not happy with ESPN. And then I have built the best UFC card that can be made for their debut on Netflix. So for those who don't know, WWE are now partnered up with Netflix, and their first event, if you want to call it that, on Netflix was absolutely stacked. So I have really cooked with this UFC card. But let's start off with this here. So inside details of the UFC's issues with ESPN. Their first one is the UFC are extremely upset with ESPN over the pay-per-view issues during the Pereira and Goliath card. Now, when I was doing my watch along, a lot of people did join into the stream and say they couldn't get access to the pay-per-view card. So I mean, that there is pretty shitty. That is on ESPN to sort that. So that's an understandable one why the UFC aren't happy with that. And I've seen a lot of people throughout their partnership with ESPN complain about either the quality of the, it's not a stream, but you know what I mean, the quality of what's being on their screen, and just not being able to buy it, or when they buy it, it's not coming up for them to watch. So that has been a problem going on for quite some time now. The UFC have an issue with with ESPN because of their technology, and ESPN feel like they're not getting the pay-per-view buys they expected from the deal. Now, my personal opinion on this is the reason why ESPN won't generate a lot of money off pay-per-views is because nobody's fucking buying them anymore. They're $100 in America. $100 to watch an event. 80 to 100. Who's paying that for those events? Who? Like, the UFC's demographic, like their audience, I think I said the right word there, you know, they're just working class people. They don't have $100 just to splash out on a fucking UFC event. So of course they're gonna find a dodgy link or a dodgy stream to be able to watch it. That's just obvious. They've priced themselves out. Next thing, the UFC will do everything in their power to get a Netflix deal. Netflix are not a fan of the pay-per-view model, but are flexible. I think that model is slowly dying, to be honest. I think the UFC will sign with Netflix. It's obvious. The WWE signed to Netflix. They are under the TKO umbrella, as are the UFC. So this was always going to happen anyway. Pay-per-view numbers are apparently way down. That just goes back to they just price themselves out, and pay-per-view points are becoming pointless in fighters' contracts because of how low pay-per-view buys actually are. That there is interesting. But yeah, those are those points covered. Now let's get on to the meat and potatoes of the video. The UFC Netflix debut card. So we've got 5 fights on this main card. Opening up, we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov. This guy is opening up the main card. Obviously, some people would think that he should fight the winner of Bilal Muhammad versus JDM, which just makes me want to absolutely swanton bomb into my setup, because what has this guy done to earn that? You know what I mean? What has he done to earn the right to pull out of his title opportunity and then just re-enter and fight again? Doesn't make any sense. That's not happening on my watch. Shavkat Rakhmonov, one of the most overrated fighters right now in the UFC, in my opinion. Him versus Joaquin Buckley. Now, for those who see my video yesterday, I did talk about Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman. That's another great fit for this card. But I want to give you something a bit different, and this is another matchup that I want to see, and I think Joaquin Buckley beats Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think this would be the perfect main card opener because both guys are very fun to watch, and it would be an absolute war, especially over 3 rounds. It would just be an absolute car crash. And in terms of the rankings, I think if Leon Edwards beats Sean Brady, I know a lot of people aren't a fan of Leon Edwards, but technically speaking, he would then deserve to fight for the belt next. I think he would deserve his rematch for the title. Let's not forget he was a defending champion as well. So I think Shavkat Rakhmonov should have a fight in the meantime to rightfully earn his shot at the UFC welterweight title. And I think just in the current landscape, Joaquin Buckley on a win streak, coming off a big win over Colby Covington, that there's absolute fucking money to open up the main card. Joaquin Buckley beats Shavkat Rakhmonov, by the way. I'm just being honest. I think Joaquin Buckley is the dark horse of this division. I think his boxing, the power he possesses, the fact that Shavkat, technically, in terms of his striking defense, he's there to be hit. We've seen Jeff Neal hit him and hurt him. Joaquin Buckley should really improve takedown defense. He showed good takedown defense in the Colby Covington matchup. Now, Colby does wrestle obviously a lot different than Shavkat. He normally shoots for takedowns from the clinch position, where Colby shoots your traditional single legs, double legs, so that is the difference. But this guy's fought at middleweight before. I think he can match Shavkat in the strength, and I just think that's a really fun fight to open up the main card. Moving on, we have got Israel Adesanya. Big name. There's going to be a lot of big names on this card. Israel Adesanya, former 2-time UFC middleweight champion. We're having him in his rematch with Sean Strickland on this card. A lot of people might not like this, but this is going to be an absolutely stacked card. I know a lot of people are kind of thinking Sean Strickland versus Robert Whittaker next, and I understand that, but Adesanya doesn't have long left. I don't think the UFC are going to use him as a gatekeeper. I know they had him in there against Nasidim Mamavov, but if Adesanya had won that matchup, he would have fought the winner of DDP versus Khamzat Chimaev for the belt. If he wins this matchup, I wouldn't be surprised if they done that. Personally, I think you do Robert Whittaker versus Caio Borralho next, and then you do Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya. I know Sean Strickland kind of dominated him for all 5 rounds, and if you want to make this 5 rounds, go ahead, but there are 3 title fights on this card, so I don't know if you want to go for that, but I mean, you could. I wouldn't want Joaquin Buckley versus Shavkat to be 5 rounds. I think 3 rounds is perfect for that, but this could be 5 rounds if you want it to be. It's entirely up to you. But yes, Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, 2 big names. This matchup will fit in with what else is on the card as well. Just wait. So I think this is a good one. They've already spoke about this rematch, kind of. Israel Adesanya, the UFC, see him as a big star still. He is a big star still. The UFC are going to try and make as much money possible off Israel Adesanya. I think this is a good rematch. Sean Strickland, big talker, obviously just fought for the title. Makes sense. 2 big name guys. Big fight. Makes sense. That's how stacked this card is. Have you just seen that? Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland 2 is the second fight on the main card. Next up, we've got Max Holloway. This is the start of the 3 title matchups. This is a BMF title fight. I know you might say that's not a title. It is. Unfortunately, it has given us some good memories. But Max Holloway's taking on Dan Hooker for the BMF title. Look, I know Dan Hooker pulled out of his matchup against Justin Gaethje, and I know that I've came on here time and time again and said that I don't think he beat Gamrot. I still stand to that till this day. However, you need to make this fucking card massive, and this is a very fun matchup. Dan Hooker, he fits into the BMF category. Max Holloway is the BMF champion. I was going to do Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira 2, but we've already got a rematch on the card. That's the issue with the UFC lightweight division as well. It's constantly just rehashing already seen matchups. Now I know Max Holloway versus Oliveira happened at featherweight, and that would be up a weight class now a lot of years apart. I do get that. It would be a completely different fight, although I still do think Max Holloway would win. Let's go for something different. 5 rounds, BMF title, Max Holloway, Dan Hooker, absolute fucking war. There's going to be no wrestling in this matchup, all striking, absolute car crash, pure violence. Max Holloway will beat Dan Hooker though. I need to get that out there just so people can understand. Max Holloway is beating Dan Hooker. I think Max Holloway, honestly, is one of the only guys in the lightweight division to give Islam Makhachev a tough test.
Bruh.
I can't believe Elliot Topuria knocked him out. But yeah, Max Holloway, Dan Hooker, BMF title, 5 rounds. Feature fight on the card. Absolutely fucking awesome. Moving on to the co-main event. Oh, we've got Dricus du Plessis defending his UFC middleweight title. Again, this is what I said. There's a couple of matchups here that will just gel in with the other stuff on the card. This is one of them. You have got Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev in the co-main event. Absolutely fucking mega awesome fight. I need this in my life right fucking now. This here co-main event, you've got these guys. Imagine the press conference. These guys on stage with Adesanya and Sean Strickland. Wake me up inside. I don't know why. I just felt the need to sing that there. That there is just awesome. Take my fucking money. We know this is the fight we're going to get next. I think this would be perfect for this card. I think it would be absolutely fucking astronomical. I do think Khamzat Chimaev is going to beat Dricus du Plessis though. Just going to be honest. I think DDP's grappling will be too much, especially early on for Dricus du Plessis. I would love Dricus to win. I just don't... Well, I do see a way. I think this fight's like 70-30 in favour of Khamzat Chimaev. if you're picking Dricus du Plessis to win this matchup, you're banking on him being able to survive the early rounds. That's what you're banking on. Rounds 1 and 2, Khamzat Chimaev might be the best first round fighter. In fact, I would go as far as say he is. He's the best first round fighter we have ever seen in the UFC. DDP can match him in strength, I'm sure. But the strength, the technique, I think Khamzat might be too much for him on the mat, to be honest. I think he might submit him, although I don't think we've ever seen DDP be submitted before. I don't think we have in his career. I know we've seen him be knocked out. If you are picking DDP to win, though, it is on the back of him being able to outlast Khamzat and just beat him up in the later stages of the fight. But either way, if Dricus du Plessis beats Khamzat, you know it's going to be a fun fight because DDP is going to have to come through a lot of adversity. If Khamzat Chimaev beats Dricus du Plessis, he's one of the biggest names in the sport anyway. That there is massive, absolutely massive for the UFC, especially because if they are able to get on Netflix, which I'm pretty certain they will be going to Netflix, they will get such a new fan base, a new audience. Like, you think of the amount of people probably watch that debut episode of WWE. WWE's been around forever. So maybe a lot of people who used to watch it came back and watched it because it was on Netflix just because of the convenience for it. But the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, you never see boxing matchups that have that amount of eyeballs on it. Think of what that's going to do for the UFC. DDP Khamzat Chimaev co-main event. Moving on to the main event, we have got Islam Makhachev. Islam is one of the biggest names the UFC have right now. He is easily one of the biggest stars. I think he just surpassed 10 million followers on Instagram. He's above John Jones now. Fucking mega. This guy's a massive name. You just know what fight I'm going to go for here. I'm going to keep saying this. I'm going to keep manifesting this. Shout out Israel Adesanya. This is the matchup I want to see. This is a dream matchup for me. Islam Makhachev, Ilia Topuria. I'm not going to harp on too much about this matchup. I'm sure you are sick to death of hearing me talk about it. But this would be awesome. What a main event this would be. The two, like, if you want to showcase how good the sport of MMA is, you have these two guys fight. Easily point for point number 1, number 2 in the sport, in my opinion. Fuck John Jones, he's not in the list. These guys, in terms of just all-round MMA skill set, by far the best the sport have seen. Now, you might say that's a bit unrealistic, maybe. But, and I know Ruby Carter, whatever you fucking call this guy, he is not reliable. But I swear, I am pretty certain someone close to Khamzat Chimaev was on social media saying that he has heard that DDP Khamzat and Makhachev Topuria are going to be on the same card, which would just be insane. They say UFC 317. I don't know where that's meant to take place, but that there would just be cinema if that was the main and co-main to that card. I think that is an awesome UFC debut and show on Netflix. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. What fights would you like to see on the card? Who do you think wins these matchups that I have made here? And as always, thanks again for the support. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I will see you again in the next one.